Okay, today's the day. We're gonna pull the cab off. My buddy's pulling up right now with his skid steer. I got everything disconnected, wiring harness draped over, heater lines, vacuum line, throttle linkages, wiring harness, brake lines, steering column, e-brake, speedometer, another harness, all the shifter and clutch linkages. I got all the cab bolts out except for one that was too rusted. I still need to torch cut it. And that's what I'm about to do right now. Got the little torch here. Just that one right there. Oh, and I got the fuel line out. The fuel line that ran down there. So I'm just gonna torch cut that and then we'll pull the cab off. All right, so you guys saw the cab come off and then the engine and trans came out. So I went ahead and used the skid steer, picked up the front, and I put it on a sawhorse just so the wheels would be off the ground. And then what I'm currently doing is taking the front suspension off, unbolted the coil spring retainers. This shock absorber was blown out, so it just kind of fell apart. I did the same on this side, unbolted the coil spring retainer, and then I actually had unscrewed the shock on this side. I don't know if it's good, but it didn't just fall apart. I just cut the old rubber brake lines, they're junk anyway. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this bracket off. Looks like it's just 2 bolts here. Take this bracket off that holds the brake lines, and looks like 2 bolts there, 1 here. And then I'm just going to kind of lay the brake lines over out of the way for now. This bracket will come off. There's 2 bolts here. Everything's all caked in grease, 50-year-old grease. But I'm going to take that bracket off, lay the brake lines over, get this thing out of the way, and then I'm going to unbolt the steering gearbox, which is these 2 big bolts and that one right there. So I'll just take this bracket off too. But what I'm trying to do is just get the whole front suspension out just as one whole piece, so taking it, piece by piece apart. So what I want to do is get all this stuff out of the way, unbolt the steering gearbox, lay it over, and all the tie rods will just be hanging. And then it'll just be the radius arms, these big bolts back here, or big nuts rather. They'll just unbolt and that'll fall out, and then it'll just be the I-beam, or whatever you want to call them. These 2 big bolts here that hold the 2 twin I-beams, or whatever you want to call it, for the front end in. And then the whole front end will just drop out of the thing. And after that, I mean, it's just like pulling out the wiring harness, the metal brake lines that run to the rear, the exhaust, the drive shaft, little stuff. And then we're going to send the frame to get sandblasted and powder coated. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just trying to get the front end out. So I'll show y'all guys a bare frame here in a little while. Hey guys, it's currently Friday afternoon, and I've been putting in a lot of work on the F250. Here it is. Bare frame. In the front, that is. Got all the suspension, all the arms, springs, fuel line, wiring harness, brake lines. All that's out. The only thing that remains is this one little rubber brake line right there. That clip is stuck. I haven't put much effort into getting it out though. And the rear axle. And that's it. All I have to do is unbolt the leaf spring hangers, front, rear, and then the shocks. And the axle will be loose, and then the rear bumper. But right now I'm leaving all that. I'm leaving the axle on so it's movable. You know, I can hook onto the front of it with the little mini X or the skid steer, and I can roll the frame around if I needed to. But yeah, everything looks good except for this little spot I think I showed y'all before. It's pretty thin right there. I'm just gonna cut the frame here, come across right there. Just cut that little notch out and just lay a piece of flat steel in there, weld it, and the same thing on the other side, but it only needs like a 2-inch deal on it. This side's got probably 5 or 6 inches of a pad spot there. But yeah, the next time you guys see this thing, it will probably be, I'll probably show you either me pressure washing it, or the frame will be on a trailer going to get sandblasted and powder coated. I'll probably show you all the welds, my little repairs on the frame when I do that. But yeah, pretty much a bare frame. Oh, and this thing, part of the bed floor, this bar has to come out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And we got everything. I found a Dana 44 front axle that I'm going to pick up probably next weekend for it. We already got the coil springs, and I'm just going to have to build some radius arms. So we're going to start ordering parts now and wait for this. It should take 2 or 3 weeks at powder coat. But yeah, coming right along. Time to start fresh with everything.